Just as just a few moments ago, Hamza Yusuf obviously stepped down as the first minister, and it looks like the race is now on in the SNP to find out who's going to win in that particular race. Meanwhile, of course, we turn our eyes to Westminster, and now a lot of people are asking, well, depending how Tuesday goes, might Rishi Sunak also be having to make a similar announcement the following Monday after those particular results? Because, oh boy, Friday and the weekend are going to be very, very interesting, depending on how those results come across in the local election. So, once again, I remind you, get out. Go out there and vote. There are people out there who will register who will not go out and vote. Remember, local elections have an incredibly low turnout rate from like 25 to 30%. A swing of like 100 people, or sometimes even less than that, changing parties or getting people out to vote can cause huge seismic shifts. Remember, there is also local mayoral elections in place as well. So get out and vote for those as well. Remember your ID. This will determine how quickly we can get rid of the Conservative government. The more Conservative councillors you vote out, the more Labour regional mayors that come in. Hopefully, we get a clean sweep. That was I would like to see, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, Friday could be interesting as well as the weekend. But in the meantime, of course, bizarrely of all places, indeed, out comes from nowhere Michael Gove. Now, Michael Gove, as we've said in the past, interesting character. Definitely someone who has wanted to be leader of the Conservative Party, but not only was he tripped up, of course, by Boris Johnson at that particular time, but he even saw one particular leadership election where instead of putting himself forward, he decided to, of all things, back Kimmy Badenoch to see how well potentially this whole culture warrior stuff might actually get someone. And bear in mind, Michael Gove, time after time, even though he backed Kimmy Badenoch, seemed to have really moved away from that culture war stuff. He has not engaged in this culture. Sometimes he has, don't get me wrong, but on whole, he has massively backed away. In fact, he created a group called Onward, which to me really represents the vehicle that Michael Gove is going to try and drive for him to be the leader of the Tory party, trying to set, policies and directions of travel he wants to take the party in. Now, a lot of it, of course, very reminiscent of the David Cameron days, because Gove loved David Cameron, but he felt that Cameron took the party towards the center. That it was just a bit too centrist for Gove's liking. He wanted to sort of keep a bit more of the right wingedness on that sort of perspective, but Onward is slowly becoming a somewhat interesting, bizarre mishmash of saying the right things, but will it actually transfer into, any doable conservative policy, or at least policy that conservatives post the general election might want to do? As with always, these types of parties, ultimately, I think what is going to happen for them is that the Conservatives, after this general election, are going to elect someone who is like really right wing, and they will go on and probably lose. And then you will probably get just another series of conservative civil wars over and about this. And who knows? Maybe Michael Gove might be somewhat of a surprising winner during this tenure. Maybe, I don't know, in the future, we could be very well talking about how Onward was sort of the vehicle that sort of put the Conservatives back into sort of some sort of, you know, I don't know, winning electoral body. Who can really say? But just having a look over this at the moment, because this is the new um, thing that they've put out. The future of conservatism, a conservative economy, building a fairer, more productive nation. And of course, he talks um, about this. So he says, our old economic consensus has now run out of road. We can no longer have a laissez-faire approach to industry and trade. We must prioritize efficiency over resilience and see the impacts of hyperglobalization as inevitable. A new conservative economics focused on reindustrialization is needed to build a more productive, resilient, and fairer economy. So, what event exactly will that go on to sort of mean? It's really strange, but we'll find out, I'm sure, eventually. But this is one of the things that sort of surprised me. So he goes on to say this paper will make the case for an active industrial strategy to try and rebuild Britain's manufacturing base, boost exports, and make it less reliant on overseas ownership as its core strategic asset. It calls for an economic policy to prioritize national productivity and security over international rent seeking or libertarian ideology. Definitely make, giving, breathing room away from Liz Truss. We're not Liz Truss's, economic policies. So this is what some of the stuff he wants to do. So this is how he would say, and quote, radical of this. So he wants to offer generous tax breaks for parents raising children with a new tax allowance for families. Once again, what is it with conservatives just going tax breaks, tax breaks, tax breaks? But, well, there you go. No matter what new conservative idea it seems to be, there always seems to be some form of tax break. Just, depends who gets it. Replacing the restrictive residential planning rules in inner London, Birmingham and Manchester, Liverpool, Oxford and Cambridge with new development zones to unlock house building. I have to say, remember, this is Michael Gove. This is someone who has been part of the Conservative government for years. Why not put these plans forward now? Remember, Michael Gove is the leader, the Minister for Department of Levelling Up. Why is he not putting forward these ideas? We'll see. Another one he's putting forward: abolish the shortage occupation list to introduce visa caps and imposing higher salary threshold to slash net immigration to the tens of thousands per year. So pretty much what the Conservatives are trying to do now, well, except of course the visa cap. But that's new, but whether that will work or not, who knows? The final part, ending the taxpayer subsidies for failing university degrees and changing low quality universities into institutes focused on STEM, technical, and vocational education. Again, obsessed with this idea of, failing university degrees. Like what? Arts? History? Because technically, history is one of those many failing degrees that they would, quote, want to get rid of. No, you should allow universities to do these degrees and to do it. And bear in mind, we've just had recently the University of Huddersfield announced a very big layoff recently because of the big problem in universities, mostly because now of the lack of international students wanting to come to the UK because of Brexit as well. Remember, universities, if you ever talk to someone who was an international student, ask them how much they paid coming to a university in the UK versus what we paid. They paid like 3 or 4 times more than we did. That's for certain. But these are, yeah. So those are some of the challenges he wants to face. And then also, I do like this. So Keir Starmer's Labour Party Keir Starmer's Labour Party appears intent on extending nationalism, raising tax, and handing more power to the unions to restrict employment flexibilities. Once again, a very clear difference between the Conservatives, and of course, the Tories. Even Michael Gove will say that is the difference between his party and uh, and the Conservatives. But this is certainly yet another attempt by Michael Gove to try and at least maybe steer the direction of the Conservative Party. Um, Overall, it's exactly the same type of stuff we've seen before. Um, Having a actual industrial strategy to sort of focus on that, well, okay, you've actually got to sort of put that forward, put that industrial strategy forward. And remember, Michael Gove is in a position where right now he could put that industrial strategy forward. If that is the case, if Michael Gove really believes that that is the industrial strategy that the UK should be following, why then is he not putting this forward? Why is he not going to Rishi Sunak and going, hey, Rishi, I know how you can win the next election. Let's do this. Oh, that's because remember when the last leveling up white paper got put out, Rishi Sunak just completely slashed all the budgets and said, nah, we're not giving you that amount of money. He also does point out later in the paper as well about the investment into infrastructure, completely contradicting the type of cutting the things of like HS2, and says that was a bad idea for the government to do, that they should invest in more infrastructure. So, hey, maybe just like many conservatives we see at the moment, they're just waiting for their opportunity. But make no mistake, during the upcoming conservative civil war, you will no doubt see conservatives start, shall we say, nailing these banners and labels to their jackets to say this is who they stand for. This is the direction we think the party should go in. So make no mistake, I do think during the high civil war, we'll be hearing a lot more from Onward, and in particular, probably Michael Gove. Certainly, someone who will be a very big player in these upcoming Tory civil wars that are, well, possibly right round the corner. And oh boy, I am there for that when these break out. But as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.